live in London from the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, where a protester has sprayed orange paint and done some creative redecorating on the building of BEIS, and has now climbed up onto one of the overhangs. And the reason this is happening is because BEIS is responsible for a lot of destruction around the world. You would have seen a lot in the news recently about new oil licenses. Something else they do is they subsidise biomass, which is an incredibly destructive industry. There's a massive power plant in Yorkshire in the UK called Drax Power Station, and BEIS gives them £832 million a year to burn trees, and this is done under the guise of renewable subsidies. And actually, what Drax won't tell you and what BEIS won't tell you is that biomass is incredibly destructive. It's not green energy. It shouldn't be considered renewable, and that's public money that's coming out of your tax bill. And yeah, the government should not be subsidising that. It's disgusting, and so we're here today to call on the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, or BEIS, to stop giving subsidies to this incredibly destructive industry. Stop giving subsidies to Drax. £832 million public money that could be used for better things. We could be instead investing in communities. We could be investing in education, healthcare. We could be funding a genuine, just transition, retraining workers who work in the biomass industry, reskilling them for better things. And what Drax will say is that biomass is renewable, and it's green energy because the trees are replanted. What they won't tell you is actually biomass is worse than coal, and when a tree is burned, it emits more carbon per unit than coal does. So yeah, they're just basically, BEIS are funding lies and destruction all over the globe. The impact on communities here in the UK, Drax is currently been taken to court by the Health and Safety Executive. We fined £500,000 for endangering the health of its workers over a 10-year period.
Yeah, Drax is literally the UK's single largest carbon emitter, which is completely ridiculous given that they received last year £892 million in renewable subsidies. This is a complete scam, and quite frankly it's disgusting. This is public money that's meant to be genuine renewables, not for companies that are destroying our vital forests and also harming communities, killing people with their practices. Their pellet processing sites emit so much pollution that they're giving people who live in the vicinity long-term respiratory health issues, harming the elderly people and children the most. This is all funded by this department, coming out of money from our energy bills meant for genuine renewables. It's a disgusting misuse of public money. This department has been under attack recently for its funding and allowing of new oil and gas fields. Not only are they actively destroying our planet with the use of fossil fuels, but even their renewables are a scam. It's disgusting and it shouldn't be allowed. So we're here today to demand that they stop burning trees, they stop the greenwash scam. It's completely made up. There's so much evidence from scientists coming out that burning wood biomass is not green, it's not clean. It's just as bad as coal, if not worse, per unit of energy generated. So you can see an activist from Axe Drax here hanging up a banner that says stop burning trees. It's quite simple really. We need to stop destroying our planet and stop destroying our forests that are so important for life and for everyone's existence. So yeah, if you are seeing this, check out Axe Drax. It's Drax's AGM today, where they're going to be gathering here in London to discuss how they continue profiting off pollution, how they can make the most money using public subsidies for their own corporate greed and not for the good of humanity, not for the good of the planet, and certainly not for the good of people. So it's quite simple really. We have 3 demands as Axe Drax. We want them to tell the truth. Biomass is not green, it's not clean, it's not renewable, it's destroying our planet. Using carbon counting loopholes doesn't make the carbon go away, it's still there, they're just lying about it. Our second demand is they defund biomass, remove the billions in subsidies that are given to Drax. By 2027 they'll have received £10 billion in renewable subsidies. They've received more renewable subsidies than any other company in the UK, despite being the UK's single largest carbon emitter. If you take away the subsidies, they aren't able to function. It costs, they lose more than they get in subsidies every year, the more than they make, and the subsidies make up the difference. So if you take away the subsidies, they can't continue to function, they can't continue destroying our planet. And then third, fund community solutions. Corporations aren't going to be the solution to the climate crisis. We know that greenwashing isn't the solution. We need genuine funding for renewables, like wind and solar. We need investment in our communities. We need insulation for our housing. We need investment in health, education, social care. None of these things that Drax is doing. So yeah, just a reminder for anyone, thank you Paul, that we're here outside the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. They're the ones responsible for giving Drax all of their subsidies. Last year they received 892 million in renewable subsidies. It's getting more and more every year. And this year they're publishing their biomass policy statement. They put out like a pre-statement in November last year saying that biomass was a core part of their environmental strategy. This is not true. If we keep burning trees for fuel on the industrial scale that Drax is, we are going to continue destroying our planet. They're also asking for more money to build BECS, which is bioenergy carbon capture and storage. BECS has never been proven to work on a large scale, even Drax themselves admit this, yet it's estimated to cost 31.7 billion to build this technology, which doesn't work, and it already exists. There's already things that absorb carbon, they're called trees, and that is what Drax is funding the cutting down of and destruction of. So that's why we're here outside BEIS taking action. We've tried so many other methods of campaigning. We've been writing letters, signing petitions, holding protests for years, and they're not listening. So we have to do something to make our voices heard. The government is currently trying to shut down the right to protest. It makes it even more important that we use our voices and our bodies where we can. Just give you a bit of a shot of what's going on. So yeah, the front of BEIS has been covered in paint. We're hanging banners that say stop burning trees. There's another one going up at the moment. Once again, the British government is funding destruction around the world. British companies are profiting off of it while people suffer. As mentioned, Drax is currently being taken to court in the UK for violating its workers' health and safety. It's the health and safety executive who's taking them to court and for giving their workers over the last 10 years long-term respiratory health issues, which obviously given the global pandemic is even worse. This isn't the first time that Drax has been called out for violating the health of people working on its sites and near their sites. In 2021 they received a $2.5 million fine for one of their pellet processing sites in Mississippi in America, where they were emitting illegal amounts of VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds that have been known for causing cancer, long-term respiratory health issues, people that can't go outside anymore because They can't breathe when they're out there, they get covered in dust. These people's quality of lives and lives themselves are being destroyed by Drax, who is being funded by UK money coming from our bills from the Green Levy, which is meant for genuine renewables, and instead it's going to this greenwashing scam. It's a disgusting misuse of public money and it needs to be stopped. And that's what we're here to try and do. So that's what we're doing here. It's a lovely redecorating job on the big department for business, energy and industrial strategy. Security looks a bit baffled. And there we go. So for anyone who's just joined the live stream, Drax is the UK's single largest carbon emitter. Despite this, their biomass production is classified as renewables, meaning they're eligible for renewable subsidies that come from the Green Levy out of people's fuel bills. And last year they received 892 million. By 2027 they would have received 10 billion in renewable subsidies. They've received more renewable subsidies than any UK company, and yet they are emitting more carbon than anyone else in the UK, which is absolutely insane. It's a completely ridiculous use of money. We need funding for genuine renewables, we need wind and solar, we need investment in our communities, in housing, in insulation. We need to stop fossil fuels, but biomass is not the answer. Per unit of energy generated, it emits more carbon than coal does, despite the fact that it's technically classified as renewable. That just uses a carbon counting loophole. That was purely a political decision made by the EU not to count the emissions of trees cut down elsewhere around the world, and given that Drax imports 97% of the wood and the trees that it burns, it's very easy for them to discount those figures, meaning they can continue to be classified as renewable despite the fact they're destroying our planet and our vital forests and the health of people all around the world. Last year Drax purchased Pinnacle Pellets. They're a Canadian logging company known for logging on unceded Indigenous land in Canada, in British Columbia. They're currently logging on land that's home to over 600 Indigenous communities, hundreds of protected species, wildlife and biodiversity. They're able to do this with the money that they've made from these subsidies, from destroying our planet. And it's absolutely disgusting that this needs to be stopped. They've once again shown that they don't care about the planet, they care about profit. They're expanding their business wherever they can. They're currently growing at a massive level, and that doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon unless we do something about it. So that is what we're here to do. You can sign up to Axe Drax to get involved. There's protests happening around the country about Drax AGM today, where they'll be discussing the best new ways that they can burn trees and take public money to do it. It's disgusting and needs to be stopped. There's protests happening in York, Leeds, Liverpool and Hull, and in London outside the AGM. You can find all the details on our page, so please go and join one of them if you can, or you can get involved online. You can call BEIS, you can email them and ask them to stop giving money to climate destroying companies, to climate criminals. You can get in touch with Drax. You can there's tools online to email your MPs about biomass and ask them to take a stand against it. There's loads of ways you can get involved. You can get involved on Twitter, Facebook, share this and support the people who are taking action to stop this, because it needs to be stopped. It's now or never. They're only growing and getting bigger and using up more public money that should be going into genuine renewables and investment in our communities. So we've now got two banners up, one that reads "Rise Up for Reparations" and one that reads "Stop Burning Trees." We've got "Rise Up for Reparations" because once again Britain is stealing and destroying the natural environment around the world. They're destroying ecosystems and people's livelihoods and lives. They're profiting off it, they're making money. while people are suffering once again around the world. This is something that's hardly new for British policy, but it needs to be stopped. So, and these communities deserve reparations for the damage that has been done to their environments, their health and their livelihoods. So that is what we're doing here today. And they're cutting down, they claim to be using wood residues. That's not what they're doing. They're cutting down old growth forests, important vital biodiverse hotspots, and it is quite frankly disgusting. Just got some cops arriving now. Just make sure they're not doing anything untoward. Just got a cop removing this Axe Drax fire extinguisher. They're asking why he's here. I think it's quite clear, it says on the banners. We need to protect our forests, we need to protect our communities, and not fund death and destruction.
I need to speak to you. I need to speak to you. You can't open the door. Where am I going then? I can't hear you. I'm not walking around the building, mate. I need to open the door so I can speak to you. Alright. Hello. You alright? Are you with this gentleman? No? Are you with this gentleman at all? You can speak to me. It's not an offence to be with him. I just want to ascertain, does anyone know his name so we can get him down? So I don't want to call him when he's up there. None of you going to speak to me now? Just going to ignore me?
Excellent activist is up there doing an incredible job, putting his body and himself out there to resist the biomass scam. To stop burning trees, to protect our forests, and stop funding climate chaos around the world, stop taking from communities, destroying people's health. It's disgusting. It needs to stop.
Yeah, incredible.
So, for anyone who's on the live stream, just so you know, we are here outside the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. They are the ones that are giving Drax billions in subsidies. They are the ones funding their climate destruction. They just recently have agreed to continue fossil fuel extraction, granting new licenses. There are people around the country resisting that. We need to resist all dirty energy. It's all got to stop. We need genuine renewables now. We don't have time to mess around with greenwashing scams. We don't have time to continue destroying people's lives for the sake of ticking boxes and making it look like your carbon emissions are lower than they are because of loopholes. It's a scam, and we need to do everything we can to resist it.
Biomass is harming communities all around the world. Here in the UK, where the Health and Safety Executive taking Drax to court and fining them over causing long-term damage to the health of their own workers, and where the trees are extracted at pellet processing sites such as South America. People are harmed there too, communities are harmed there. In Mississippi, Drax has been fined $2.5 million for releasing harmful chemicals upon communities, predominantly environmental justice communities. So that's people of colour, working class people who are bearing the brunt of this destructive, evil industry, and it needs to stop now. And that's why we're here today at BEIS. We have 3 demands. The first one is tell the truth. So we want governments and corporations to tell the truth about biomass and the harm it causes communities across the globe, here in the UK and all across the world. Our second demand is defund biomass. So this in particular is why we're here at BEIS. So instead of these subsidies, which are insanely classed as renewable, funding death and destruction across the globe, which, by the way, Drax doesn't make enough profit by itself to survive without these subsidies. You end the subsidies, you can halt the train of destruction. And our third demand is invest in communities, fund community solutions. So what we're simply saying is fund things that human beings actually need, like education, health, housing. We need to insulate our leaking homes. It's absurd that we haven't done that already. And yeah, things that are actually good for human well-being, and we need to stop this absurdity of putting corporate greed and corporate profit above human life and human needs. There's no reason for it at all. And that's why this really brave, wonderful, wonderful protester is here today at BEIS.
So, for anyone who's joined, we're here outside the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, and an activist from Axe Drax has done some redecorating. We need to, as the banners read, quite simply stop burning trees. We need reparations for the communities that have been harmed by not just fossil fuel infrastructure, not just the UK's history of colonialism, but everything that's continuing now, where Western companies and governments are funding the destruction of places all around the world. They're harming people's health, they're destroying people's lives. It needs to stop. So that's why we're here today outside the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, which includes Office of Climate Change. The UK government claims to be taking climate change seriously. They're not. They're allowing new fossil fuel projects, they're funding biomass, which is basically cutting down forests around the world for them to be burnt here in the UK. They claim to be using wood residues. They're not. There's been so many investigations from independent organisations that have shown that they're using whole trees, and they're destroying our entire planet. And yet they're receiving renewable subsidies to do this. It's ridiculous, it's disgusting, and it needs to be stopped. Absolutely, there is no time left to continue doing this. It needs to be stopped. It needed to be stopped decades ago. It needs to never start. But the best time. But all we can do now is stop it as soon as possible. This activist is now spray painting quite something pretty simple. Axe Drax. They burned coal and gas for years. Now they're burning trees, destroying our planet, all because they can make money off it. It's disgusting and it needs to be stopped. They're having their AGM today. There's protests happening around the country. You can find out details for them on our page and website, and you can get involved with resisting the biomass scam. We don't have time for fake solutions. We don't have time for corporate greenwashing and greed. We have 3 to 4 years left to avert the climate crisis. People are already suffering the impacts of it all around the world. That's only getting worse every single day. It takes 40 to 100 years to reabsorb the carbon emitted from burning these trees per unit of energy generated. Biomass emits more carbon than coal, and yet it is technically classified as renewable, which is a complete scam, and it needs to be stopped.
How long do you plan to spend on that? Just so we have a bit of an idea.
The cops are a bit stumped of what to do. We're also here just near Parliament, where they have the power to stop fossil fuels, they have the power to stop biomass. They're not doing that because there's money to be made, and they're more invested in corporate interests and greed than they are in protecting communities or our planet.
Use the car park. But friend, we can't stop it. If police are here, they're still looking at him. I can walk around. Go pull on them. Go. Our brother.
So yeah, anyone who's watching, we're here outside the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. An activist has scaled BEIS, and they've hung banners that read "Rise up for Reparations, stop burning trees." Axe Drax spray painted on the side. They're here because this department funds the destruction of...
Stop fucking burning streets.
Absolutely. It's quite simple really. Stop burning trees, stop destroying forests. You would think it would make sense and be quite obvious to people, but when there's money to be made, it's people and planet who suffer. This department has the power to stop Drax. They have the power to stop new fossil fuel projects, but they're not doing that, and they're not going to do it unless we make them, and unless we keep putting pressure on them. and keep demanding that they stop burning trees and they pay reparations to the communities that they have harmed through their practices. Axe Drax has 3 quite simple demands. 1, tell the truth, biomass isn't green, stop classifying it as renewable. You can't classify it as renewable, and you can't give it the renewable subsidies that it depends on to survive. 2, quite clearly and most directed at this building right here, people in this building, defund biomass. It's a scam. If you take away the subsidies, they are unable to function. Last year they received 892 million in renewable subsidies. By 2027 they'll have received 10 billion in renewable subsidies. That's more. They've been given more renewable subsidies than any other company in the UK. Number 3, fund community solutions. Invest in genuine renewables, invest in housing, healthcare, education. We need insulation, we need clean energy, we need support for our communities. People are being pushed into fuel poverty by rising fossil fuel prices. This is just corporate greed once again. We need support for people, genuine renewables that are affordable and everyone has access to.
Okoro, go home and come early tonight. Go home. Yeah, go home, we finish.
Excuse me, I want to ask you a question.
One question. It's not free question.
What I see that the managers are there.
I want them to give you a word. I want them to give you a word. No,
We're going to stop this stream for a little bit and then we'll be back on shortly.
Yeah, you don't want.